What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to Boxing and Bagels this Sunday. George Zapata here. Dennis Zapata across the way. Des, what's up?
What up? What up?
What was supposed to be a big boxing weekend actually turned out to be a total disaster.
You know what? I do like how they had the cards back to back, Friday, Saturday.
It wouldn't matter. It wouldn't matter if they had them on the same night. That was probably one of the worst two shows I've ever seen. We're going to get right into it. But we got a couple of things we're going to discuss about. We got the boxing show over the weekend, UFC last night. We have Turkey Al Sheikh's comments, which were, it's like we're in Sanford and Son again. And then we'll just give you our picks, or well, look forward, and maybe not give us our picks, but look forward to Crawford and Canelo. Let's start off first with the Times Square show there on Friday. Upset. Well, before the fight happened, before this show happened, I thought Rolly was going to get blown away. I thought Haney Ramirez was the closest shot of being an upset where Ramirez would win. And then I thought that Barbosa had a shot at beating Tio. Everything I said was wrong. Star of the show ends up being Tio.
Yeah.
The other two we're going to talk about, horrible. Devin Haney being probably his stock probably dropped the worst, only because he doesn't have the star power that Ryan Garcia has. So let's get right into it. First fight of the night, it was Teofimo Lopez, Arnold Barbosa. I thought it was going to be better. Barbosa was average, wasn't great, but he was a guy who would give Tio. Again, you never know which Tio shows up for the fight. You never know. So I thought Tio, the way he was acting was a little off. I didn't think he'd be that into this fight. It just seemed, and Barbosa with his size advantage, I thought maybe he could outwork Tio. Didn't plan out that way. Tio wasn't as explosive as he could be, but he definitely looked the best of the show and did a lot better than he has looked against when he was fighting Jermaine Ortiz or Kambosos. What was your thoughts on Tio and what his future holds?
So I thought Tio, like you said, you didn't know which one was going to come in. Which one was it going to be? The one that wasn't pulling the trigger? Was it the one that was, wild and throwing punches here and there? Hey, I just think he had to go and just take a little step down and just box a little bit. He was sharp. And he was
He didn't have the explosive combinations that he had back in the day when he was fighting on Top Rank. But he did look. He looked good. He did look good.
and that's the thing. I don't know if it was, all the eyes were really off him on this fight, and it was more for Haney and Garcia. But I think this is a fight that Lopez needed, and he needed to do a performance like this so he can get back up into the big fights that we wanted him to see, and what we thought years ago that he was going to be a top contender, putting pressure on everybody.
I thought he was going to be one of these contenders who they thought who would kind of shine. I remember I told you about him years ago, right prior to or right during COVID when it first started.
I think it was right before Lomachenko.
It was before the Lomachenko fight. It was definitely before the Lomachenko fight. But, I mean, I said, this guy, if you watch him, he's something to watch. He would do the backflips in the ring. He just had something that, like a rhythm, that boxers are the only ones who understand it. If you have this rhythm, it is a very unique thing to have, and it gives you an advantage. So obviously you got to have a punching power and have some chin, but you have this rhythm, and he just was an amazing, amazing talent. This, like you said, he needed this one.
Yep.
Because there's only too many of these fights, and we talked to Big P about this all the time. He is like he was starting to go backwards and coming down from what they thought he was going to be. Now all of a sudden he kind of propelled himself a little bit. Now again, Arnold Barbosa is good, not an elite fighter, but this little six fighters here, this opened up some doors for him. So next up for Tio could have been a shot at Haney or Garcia. If Haney looked good, he would have. But I'm hearing, from what I understand, it's going to be Boots Enos. That's what I heard.
I know there was talk of Ryan if he would have won and stuff like that, but I could see that. I can see that, and that would be a good fight. It'll be a tough fight for Lopez.
It's a tough fight. It's a tough fight for Lopez. I don't think it's a smart move. I heard Bob Arum talking about it. Bob Arum used to represent T.O.
Oh, yeah.
That's a tough fight for him. Boots, after Boots' last fight, before Boots' last fight, I would have said it would have been closer, but then again, T.O. was coming off of 2 horrible performances. Now that I saw Boots and now this T.O., I still think Boots is head and
Yeah.
shoulders above him. I because he's not Barbosa. He's 100% not Barbosa.
So Boots, I think that's going to be a tough fight. I think he will win against Lopez. I think he will. Boots. I think.
Oh yeah.
But
I
don't think Lopez should go that route.
No, I don't think it's going to be close if he fights Boots. I don't think it's going to be close. I think that's a bad fight for him. It's a totally bad fight for him.
To be honest with you, those 6 fighters that were on that card should be back on a card, different fights.
Okay, except for Lopez. Pull Lopez out. Pull Lopez out.
Well, I was going to have a.
I would say I'd say he moves forward, whichever one it is. Whether he goes to 47 and fights for a title, or if he even goes to 40 and fights for. I think he can do that. I think he can do that. I'd love to see him fight Tank, the winner of Tank and Roach. I'd love to see him fight that, but I don't know if Tank would jump up. So the fight that they propose, and this is the one thing, and we're going to get into about Turkey Al-Sheikh, because this guy, I have a lot to say about this guy. So you have this fight. They're putting the cart before the horse. I've said that in every podcast I had this week, every show with Jim Lampley, Big P, Kevin Iola. I said the same thing. You're putting the cart before the horse.
Yep.
Now that fight's blown up, it's not there anymore. Haney versus Garcia is not there anymore. Devin Haney's fight, even though he won, it was the least amount of punches thrown. Jose Ramirez is an old fighter. He is old. He's been through a lot. Haney not to throw any punches. There is something mentally wrong here, whether it's PTSD or whatever. There is something mentally wrong here. And also, I'm going to tell you this. There's something wrong with Garcia too. But Devin Haney looked awful. I mean, there is not much to say here. You talk about someone who they thought was up here. He has really come down, and I wouldn't be surprised. I would not put him in with Rolly. I would not do that because of his punching power. Although he has literally 0 skills. He does not on that level. Rolly does not have any skills. He could punch, but on that level, and he has skills for a lower level. He has skills, but not on that level with Haney. No way. I would not.
But hold on. Do you really think Haney's on that level now?
Well, that's what I was going to question with you. So now I wouldn't put him in with Rolly. Well, who do you put him in with? You can't go backwards. You cannot go backwards. And the Ryan fight doesn't really sell. The only reason why it would sell is if you said, well, he was on Osterine, MK2866, which is the drug name. Okay, so that shows you that does do something. That does do something.
Well, yeah.
So, excuse me. He looked flabby. He looked out of shape. So maybe you mix those two together. Maybe. Does it sell? I don't know if it sells anymore in the United States. If Turkey Al-Sheikh wants to throw money after it, but now that blew up. But I think Rolly upset that apple cart.
Yep.
Totally upset that apple cart.
You know, I was going. With Haney, it's just I don't know if he's gun shy now. He doesn't want to get hit.
It certainly looked it. It certainly
he
looked
does not want to get hit, and it's that first fight after a knockout that you knock down and stuff. You just want to get the rounds in, but that's not the time to do it. He should have took a lower fight with not too many eyes on it. But
I would have.
I would have took a lower fight. You don't want to jump back in there. And I think if he goes, I think the Ryan fight is going to happen. I just think so. The promotion was Ryan and Devin Haney. The commercial, the promo, them going together. Come on, that was like a little disrespect to the other people that they were fighting.
Go back now. Let's go to the main event. Ryan Garcia. I'm going to say this. I talked about PTSD with Devin Haney. When Ryan got knocked down, it looked like he almost quit. Like he was looking to survive because of that sparring session they had back in the day.
Yep.
I don't think that really meant anything until you actually get hit by the person who hit you before, and you might have flashes. It happened to me.
Yeah.
I can remember fighting the guy. Remember the convict guy, the older guy from Dumont?
Yeah.
I can remember when he clocked me, and he had zero skills. This guy had none.
It
He
was
was a
just
bigger
different, it's
guy,
just different power.
could punch, and I could just remember anytime I was, and when I mean this guy had zero skills, he had zero. Anytime he hit me, whether it was on the body or to the head, it brought that back. So that sparring probably did something to him because he essentially quit. Ryan essentially quit.
He had the same face he had when he got knocked down by Tank.
That's what I'm saying. It looks so different than the person that was so marketable, so confident, so before the first Haney fight.
Yep.
Even up to this fight, I thought he looked good. He's a guy you can market. This really set that hold, actually set the whole division back a little bit. Because now who you go? So the only person that looked good here is Rolly.
No, Lopez.
Well, but in that little mix.
Okay.
I don't think I think T.O.'s out of it. I think I'm talking about those guys. Haney, Rolly, Ramirez, and Garcia. Just because I think T.O. is a different level. I still think he's a different level.
So you don't think
marketable.
You don't think a fight between Rolly and Lopez? I mean, Lopez.
I don't think he would take it. I don't think T.O. would take that fight. Only because, no, I take that back. I think T.O. would take that fight. Because I think out of all those people, he will fight anybody.
Who, Rolly?
No.
Rolly would too.
Rolly, yes. Rolly would too. But I'm saying T.O. would fight any of them.
Yep.
T.O. would fight anybody. He's called out Bud Crawford. T.O.'s in for the money. So if that makes money, it makes sense. I think he fights him. But I think in the long-term scale of it, Rolly has more potential in this situation because the division's down. I don't know where T.O.'s going in this thing. I actually do think he's going to fight Boots because of the money situation. And I think it's going to happen in September.
So could it be on the same card?
I think it will be. Yep.
Now, it will be. So with Rolly, let's go back to some of the stuff that Turkey Al-Sheikh was doing to him. Did you hear about that?
I heard that. I mean, Turkey Al-Sheikh. Well, the whole setup. Let's go to the whole setup in general.
Because I was going to talk about. Go ahead.
Just a horrible setup. I thought it was going to be free for people. That would have been cool, right? Yeah. You're walking down the street, you see the fight. Oh wow, look at that shit. That looks cool. They put up these huge curtains.
Yep.
Which I thought was hilarious that they were just streaming it from the jumbotrons. Good for them.
And good what was also hilarious was Shakur Stevenson they weren't allowing him in. You saw that.
Shakur didn't get in?
At first, they said no. He was trying to get in. They were like, nope. And they were and then eventually he was on the phone with someone, probably contacted someone, and they pulled him in between the ropes, the red curtains.
It just seemed way awkward.
And then when you get to the ring walk with the cab.
Well, the problem is they put him in 2 hotels. And now they have to go from the hotel, which, let's be honest, that probably could play a factor to these fighters because they're not used to that. So it could have played a factor in their performance.
Because you're walking down, taking the elevator down, then you're going to the car.
It just seems weird. The whole thing was weird. The whole thing. But this is exactly the kind of shows Turkey Al-Sheikh puts on. The Los Angeles show with Bud Crawford lost tens of millions of dollars. It was a horrible show. It was just not good. Just not a good show.
What do you know what the cost was of this?
I don't know, but I'd heard there Garcia was getting 30 mil. That's what I heard.
I mean, on top of everything, when he had to pay for New York.
I mean, think about it.
He took a loss big time with that.
He hasn't made money in boxing. He has not made money. No, I'm being honest. I'm not.
No, why not?
He hasn't made money. There's a point where that stops. And this is why I did a show yesterday, a little commentary about it. If I'm a promoter, if he's in it, I don't care because this will never last. Turkey Al-Sheikh is now hurting the hardcore boxing purists who love boxing.
Yep.
For the benefit of the casuals. The casuals are going to go away. There's no way. If in 1994, and I saw Holyfield Foreman, or 1992, I think it was, Holyfield Foreman at Mark Mayer's house. Remember that? Mm-hmm. Okay. If they would have on there someone playing Super Mario Brothers in between stuff, I am not watching the show.
Yeah.
It's stupid. It's dumb. it's and you know what's also getting like this? The WWE. I
Yeah.
think the TKO thing is just they're trying to make it more of entertainment for the masses as opposed to the people. It's a sport,
Yep.
you know. Can I see Major League Baseball or the NFL going that way? Only if it makes a massive amounts of money. But there's such a huge name. Boxing doesn't want to get fixed.
Yep.
Doesn't want to get fixed. So it'll always be the wild, wild west. I'm a promoter and I'm putting up that kind of money. I don't care that Turkey Al Sheikh is in this thing because eventually it's like the shiny toy object that's going to go away.
And I think
happen.
like Eddie Hearns and them, they know this is not going to last. I think they do. De La Hoya,
I think deep down they do.
Yeah.
But I think they were scared.
Right now.
I think they were scared initially, but also the fighters are going to be the ones who are going to have to stand up and say, "Hey, this is not." There was a fight last night. They talk about Turkey Al Sheikh came in here with the "I'm going to clean up boxing." Okay, Martin Bakole lost that fight. I mean, clearly lost that fight, and they gave it to him. He got that fight, and this is just my opinion. He got that win from the judge, and one of the judges had the fight with Garcia and Romero like within 3 points. So that I forget what his name was. So these judges are in his pocket. They are in his pocket. Bakole lost that fight. Okay. You're going to clean up boxing. The only reason, in my opinion only, that Martin Bakole got the victory is because he came in the last minute to save that show for the Joe Joyce show. Mm-hmm. It was Joe Parker or Joe Joyce. I think it was Joe Parker show in Saudi Arabia. That's the only reason Bakole got that fight. The only reason why he got the victory.
That's the thing.
Back to the same bullshit that you deal with. I mean, I don't know.
They're afraid. I mean, they're not afraid, but
no, they are. No. You're right. They're afraid.
I didn't want to come out and say it, but they are because they don't want to be back on. If they get blackballed and not back on the show. Not reffing.
Well, I know a guy who has a huge boxing channel. Huge. He was in Saudi Arabia. He did an interview with somebody. I guess he did an interview with Schofield, Kid Austin. Okay. When he pulled out.
Yep.
He pulled out of the fight. He did this interview and he put it up. The guys came to him and said, "Take that down." He was like, what do you mean? He's like, "Take it down." Something happened. And now there you go. There's a freedom of the press. You can put up whatever you want. You can put up whatever you want. That's you. You're a journalist. And he's a journalist. And it's not Kevin Aioli.
But this is the thing. You don't take it down, you won't have access.
No, they told him you're going to go home. As you're going to go home.
When they own that, they can do whatever they want, and that's just not right.
It just shows me that this guy, obviously, allegedly what they did to that journalist.
Mm-hmm.
It is in the documentation that Turkey Al Sheikh somehow was involved there. That to me would be scary.
Yeah.
That to me would be scary. Now, the only one that I really seen that came out on video about him is this Sean Sattel. He has a channel. It's a great channel. He does a lot of he's on the Porterway podcast a lot. He's a really, really strong journalist and a really good reporter. He said not all money is good money. Nope. And this money is going to hurt boxing in the end. And you can see now what it's doing to the boxing game. Everybody is bowing down to this guy. They're holding hands with him going through. Now it's a different culture. But this strikes me as a really strange marriage.
It somewhat, in a way, reminds me of how Don King was back in the day. In a little bit way. Everybody wanted to be under Don King. Everybody knew that there was some fishy stuff going on there, but he brought the money, and then that's why they went with him.
Kind of like I'd rather take $2 million as opposed to the $5 I'm owed.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let's go back to Turkey.
Yeah.
Did you happen to hear his comments?
I heard a little bit of it, not the full talk about it. And I just, it's again, stuff he can say he won't get no heat for.
No, I mean, I give him the benefit of the doubt because it's a different culture. He has more money than anybody. he in that culture, probably if you have money and power, you can say what you want. Plus the fact that it's not a melting pot over there.
Mm-hmm.
Most people are from Saudi Arabia. That's what they are. So this is his comments.
But
1 second.
I don't like to talk about religion or colors but if we want to say about something, I think the boxing will be in different place if we have black heavyweight champion of all of us from the 60 and the 70 and
okay. Now, like I told you before we got on, that's like Sanford and Son back in the 70s. If that ever happened here,
Mm-hmm.
they would be crucified by saying that.
Yeah.
I'm not offended by it. I don't care. We're Hispanic. It doesn't matter. Like that doesn't bother us. But if a white guy ever said that, or if a guy who is, let's say we said boxing's better if there's a Puerto Rican 147 pounder, boxing just overall is better, we'd get crucified, if not canceled, because you can't say that. That is. But then you got to look at this. If he says that, what if he has a black heavyweight fighting for the championship?
I'm betting on that black heavyweight.
Exactly, because what if Tyson Fury is fighting Anthony Joshua or Deontay Wilder? Who do you think is going to be favored?
Mm-hmm.
If Philip Hrgovic's fighting Joshua, Hrgovic, Piccoli, anybody like that, you're against the machine. That is that is a very difficult thing to get over. It really is.
Now, the correct thing, what he should have said was an American heavyweight will make boxing better.
That would actually, yes, that would have been a lot better.
Yep.
That would have been a lot better. That's a good point. That would have been 100 times better. Because as the heavyweight championship goes, boxing goes, really. Because everybody knows the heavyweight champion of the world. And maybe he was thinking more along the lines like Muhammad Ali, how he was. And
Mike
most
Tyson,
heavyweights, heavyweights have been black. Yeah, that's just reality. But to say that live on TV, oh boy, how uncomfortable were those two guys looking at that? Like,
and to be honest with you, then we look forward to what's in the horizon. Crawford, Canelo. I mean,
Crawford, Canelo, yeah, exactly. But here, let's go to let's switch gears here, right here to the Canelo fight again. Awful fight. A terrible, like at some point you have to start calling out Canelo for these fights. Like, okay, you told me you were going to fix boxing, and now Turki Al-Sheikh said, yeah, we're going to fix boxing, and you put him in with William Skull. Oh, well, we wanted William Skull. No, you didn't. Nobody wanted William Skull. Two people had to move up in a weight class because Canelo did not want to fight them. That would be David Benavidez and David Morrell. They jumped up because they said, we're not getting the shot here. Let's move up. If either one of those Davids would have fought Canelo last night, they beat Canelo Alvarez. It is.
I just think sometimes Canelo goes down to his competition.
Okay, if that's the case, he's been down to his competition the last 4 fights he's fought.
And he's won.
Barely. I mean, he dominates some of these guys, but there's no spark. There's nothing coming back at Canelo. Charlo, Munguia was just wanting to get out of there.
Mm-hmm.
The Skull guy, and the one before that, was it Plant?
No, it was Berlanga.
Oh, Berlanga. They didn't want no part of it. Berlanga's not that good.
No.
Berlanga's not that good. Munguia's not that good. I mean, these guys aren't people who can give pushback. And they're guys that are generally his size. Blanco's a little bit bigger, but they're generally his size. And once they get hit, they don't want it.
So this is the thing. He's checking. He's starting to check out. Canelo's starting to check out.
He may be, but they're talking now. Okay, so what they're talking about now is Crawford, and that's going to be on Friday. This Friday, they're going to do the face-off at Allegiant Stadium. That's where this Friday. Supposedly, that's where the fight's going to be.
Yeah, Vegas.
Yep. Stadium. Is it? No, Allegiant Stadium. This is supposed to be a stadium show. That's what they said.
I could see that.
I definitely see that selling out. So after this fight, Crawford, which after last night, And what I've been thinking about, because I've bet both times. I always bet against Canelo and I always bet against Crawford. So either way, now I'm going to win.
Mm-hmm.
So my feeling is I didn't think Crawford was as big as he is.
He was big.
And he has the skill and he has that mental toughness. He's going to give Canelo all he can handle. I would not be surprised if he won. At this point, I don't know how much fire someone has. You know when they say when you make it to the top, it's harder to maintain it than it is to get there. I don't know how much fire he has. You can say all you want, but if you start cashing and they said $50 to $80 million,
crazy.
I mean, why would you want to do it? And don't tell me because you love it. You don't love getting beat up anymore. You don't love doing the training anymore. You don't.
No.
If this is the one last thing, I heard he's going to fight this one fight and then it'll be done in May. That's what I heard. And I did actually hear Jake Paul in May.
Well, they were somewhat going to have a deal to fight.
That would be probably. Could you imagine if he beats Crawford and then fights Jake Paul and he wins?
I would expect that. I mean, I would expect him.
No, but I'm saying like if he right, but I'm saying if he beats Crawford, hard one's out of the way, then you go back, you go out with knocking out
Jake Paul.
The social media. Jake Paul has a go with Chavez Jr. coming up.
Yeah, that's just. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think Chavez Jr. got much for him. I mean, if old school Chavez Jr. would have been a problem.
But going back to the Canelo and Terrence Crawford, I did not think he was that tall. When they faced off, he was right there. I was like, ooh. And also with Terrence Crawford, he's only got 2 fights. Rumor is 2 fights. That's it. He wants Canelo and 1 more, and he's retiring. So let's say he fights Canelo. Who would you think would be the next fight for him? Would it be Boots? Or would they
No, I don't think Boots is moving up at all. I don't think he's going to move up at all. I think he's going to dominate that 147, and he's going to. I think he wants to be undisputed. I think he'll win that fight. I still think it's going to be T.O. and Boots on the undercard of Canelo. That's
that's good. That's so far a good card. If that is it,
do you know how much you got to generate? I mean, he's putting the money up. Turkey's putting the money up. So whatever.
And the thing is, Dana White's going to be promoting it. So,
I mean, this is a massive show. But okay, so let me tell you what I think he would do. I think he may, if he makes what they're saying he's going to make for Canelo, the money's not going to be, it's going to be obsolete. I think he fights back home in Omaha. And I would, if I was him, I would fight one of the Charlo brothers. That one that him got into it with.
Okay. Yep.
That's what I would do. Fight, do that, and then he would call it a career. Now, whether that Charlo is going to fight anymore or not, I don't know. I don't even know.
I haven't even.
But that would be. I wouldn't put him. I wouldn't because Terrence is a smart dude. He's invested a lot of his money in real estate.
Yep.
He's a smart. He does not need to fight.
Nope.
I mean, he is so smart. So nothing against him personally as a fighter or anything else. I just never got into it.
Mm-hmm.
As far as outside the ring, the guy, you can't. How do you not appreciate what he's done and where he came from?
Doesn't smoke,
being shot.
Yep.
And the way he raises his kids, you cannot be not impressed with that. His kids are great kids. Yep. They're wrestling. He doesn't give them everything that they want. He has a truck. He doesn't drive these fancy cars.
Yep.
Because I saw him on the Shannon Sharp show, which is another thing we should probably talk about. But that itself tells me I'm happy for that guy. I don't not want this guy to do well. I just never expected him to be this good. I didn't.
No.
But then again, I didn't realize he was that big.
I thought the same thing when he fought Spence. I was like, oh shit, Crawford's gonna get killed. And I was like, oh
no. Yeah, no, it was the other way around. But that shocked everybody. So let's, whatever. So we went up after those 2 fights. Now, this is why I believe Turkey Al-Sheikh, when you have these shows like this, that's a couple bad shows in a row. That's why I don't think I am not going to pay for another Canelo fight. I'll pay for the Crawford fight.
Yeah.
But I'm not paying for any more of the bullshit. He's got to fight somebody for me to fight. I did actually pay for the last week's show. Which one was it? Conor Ben.
Ben. Oh, that was
Conor
fight
Ben.
of the year.
Fight of the year. Fight of the year. And that just goes to show you. Here's two guys who don't have tremendous amount of skill. They don't. They're not that good. They're not. But they fought their hearts out. I mean, these two guys gave everything they did. I love the fact with Chris Eubank's father coming back. That was great.
I was going to say that. I was going to say the fans are so involved. The show is so different out there.
Different, man.
You know, when he walked out the car, they went crazy. You know, I didn't think he was that popular.
Huge
I was
out
like,
there.
holy.
But not only that, like, you don't get that atmosphere in Saudi. You don't. And that's
not even in the United States, you don't.
You will when you get a Crawford, a Canelo fight. You will when you get like a Tank fighting somebody. If you fought Tio, that would be huge. The Lamont Roach one, I think now will be a little bit because there's a lot of that tension there. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if that's such a bad idea, but we don't have a real superstar in the United States right now. Ryan Garcia was it. I mean, and I know Paulie Malignaggi said that he was never a superstar. He was. Ryan Garcia was a social, not inside the ring, but that's not everything. Chris Eubank wasn't the greatest fighter. He was really good, but he wasn't the elite of the elite. In that, and him and Nigel Benn, they went back and forth. Chris Eubank would have problems in the United States, but they're trying to make Inoue that way, and Inoue fights today.
Yep.
I never was impressed with him. Inoue, everyone loves this guy. He could be the star of the weekend because Canelo did bad. Everybody did bad on that other show except Tio and Rolly, but they're not big superstars. This guy's a global phenomenon. Do you see him being like a Pacquiao type of guy if he wins in spectacular form tonight?
I think he has to because he's fighting in Vegas, right? He's fighting in Vegas tonight.
Yeah.
So is this his first show in the United States?
I think he's fought here before. But I think this is
the cap off the whole weekend.
A Vada type of thing with him. I think that's this one. I'd like to see that. I'd like to see him in the United States for a long period of time.
I think
again, I'm still not impressed with him. But go ahead.
I'm not either. I mean, maybe I haven't seen a lot of his fights. But again, I want him to fight some real competition.
Kevin loves him. Kevin loves this guy.
I know.
I mean, he just absolutely loves him.
But going back to the fight that was last week,
okay.
Could you see Lopez fighting Ben?
You know, Ben should move down. He 100% should move down. He was but no, he went up.
Yeah,
and he was too small for that. I mean, because he was hitting. Conor Ben has some crisp, sharp punches, and it wasn't moving him.
No,
it wasn't moving Eubank. Eubank wasn't moving.
But that's what I'm saying. He drops down. He's gonna be a little big for that weight.
He'd be a tough go for a lot of these guys. He just doesn't have. He gets hit a lot. Hit a lot, but he has a good chin. But man, his skills have to be better. Is because Chris Eubank is not a good skill fighter. He's not.
No.
He's very wide open, very sloppy. Not a knock on him. I'm telling you what, he's got the biggest heart I've seen in a long time. So does Conor Ben. They got two of the biggest hearts I've ever seen. Skill wise, though, he might be exposed as Ryan Garcia was exposed.
Gained a lot of respect for Ben over the weekend watching that.
Yeah, so did I.
I didn't think
I didn't think he was that good.
I was like, wow.
Yeah, when they were talking about Conor Ben and Chavez, Canelo years ago, they were talking about it. I'm like, right now, unless he gets hit, because whole different ball game getting hit by Canelo than getting hit by Chris Eubank Jr.
Yeah.
He might have a shot. No, how do I know? I mean, he's got heart. Tell you, they both have heart. I became a fan of both of them after last night or after last weekend. Yep.
And I think the fans, the atmosphere made it even more, made it better.
It was just great. It was a great show. That is a show. That's a show to me. It combined entertainment with the father-son coming back.
Yep.
No bullshit video games.
Yep.
Nothing like that. You 10 announcements from this guy, 5 announcements from this guy. This guy's breaking down this. None of that bullshit. It was right to the fights.
And then when the bell rang, it was nonstop till the bell ended.
Oh, because I think a lot of it because they did not like each other. But hey, maybe you need that in boxing. Maybe you need that in boxing more. So I mean, that was a tremendous fight. So overall, boxing had a good point, and then they really, unless NOA really shits the bed today, this boxing will be all right because they have that. NOA is the guy that they're looking at, but Canelo did himself no favors. Those 6 fighters did themselves no favors. Turkey Al-Sheikh did himself no favors. Horrible weekend. Friday, Saturday, Sunday could be saved. Maybe. Yep. We'll find out. Horrible weekend. But speaking of horrible weekends, Bo Nickel got exposed last night.
He did.
A far cry from I'm going to beat Khamzat Chimaev. No.
Yeah. No.
Khamzat would destroy him easy.
You know what it looked like yesterday?
Scared.
It looked like Brock Lesnar versus Velasquez.
Certainly did.
The punches were different, and he was not even hitting hard. Just little 6-inch punches were getting them, and he looked like, I just want to get out of here. I just want to. And then
I think it kind of looked that way.
He just wanted to get out.
I thought that the ref shouldn't have stopped it, as I thought he should have, because he quit essentially.
Yeah,
knee to the body went
down.
He
went down, and
Beltran jumped in a little bit too early. I think that guy was the mile. I forget his name is RDR. Reader. I think I think he wanted to do a couple of hammer fists on that guy, and it could have been, and that would have been a little humble pie for him because I don't like his attitude. I know I'm a Penn State guy out here, but he's got a very arrogant attitude.
When he came in, it was good. He was, and then
Dana pumped him up. Dana pumped him up a little bit, I think, and. Even not that I didn't question him, I thought he was good, but I said, there's no striking experience. Like Aaron Pico, you knew he was a Golden Glove boxer, great wrestler, Golden Glove boxer. Okay, maybe you could do. Then he got exposed. These guys get exposed, and once they do, I know MMA Joey said, Bo Nickel's career is over. Said right now it's over because now that he's exposed, they're gonna know. It's similar to like, and you know what he said? Similar to like Brock Lesnar. He got exposed. That was it.
Yep.
Once that happened, it was over.
When I forgot who it was punched and and Brock Lesnar like turned his back and everything. Same thing Bo did. They're not used to that physical. They're used to that physical grappling, but not the punches, not your head getting punched, not your kidney punches and stuff like that. And he felt something he never felt before, and he bowed out.
I forget the guy's name who he fought, Brock, when he was doing that, when he was turning his back. It was that big heavyweight from Colorado. Huge hands. He has
Shane Carwin.
Shane Carwin. Yep. And now he's unfortunately battling CTE.
Yeah,
bad. And that was the one where Brock was like running away from him. Yeah. It is very different. And it's just like when you first started training and I first started training, you kind of want to turn your back because you're not used to it. When you get hit, you're like, oh shit, that's bad.
And you know what another key is too? You get hit to the body and you lift your leg up, like your knee.
Yeah.
He did that, like to lift his leg up because he wasn't used to getting hit in the body like that. And it was
I you know what, to be honest with you, I liked it. I didn't like the guy. I don't like the guy at all. In the main event, Figueroa, Sanhagen. Sanhagen, I think, deserves a title shot. I've always liked him. Corey's always been a good fighter. I think Figueroa is on his way out.
Oh yeah.
I think this is probably the end of him. Not a great fight for him, and the beatings I think have caught up with him. I think these fights that he has are nip and tuck all the time.
And the weight, he would go up, go down, went down to 135. And so that he was big for this. So I think the weight had something to do with it. His career-wise going up and down.
Yeah, real quickly, let's switch to a couple of things that have happened in the sports world. Yankees are continuing their dominations, but Aaron Judge having a year to behold.
Yeah, like no other.
Last night he had yesterday he hit another home run.
11.
This guy is the only guy that I have seen, and I hope there's nothing that comes out with him that he's using something or whatever, but he is a big guy, so maybe not. And I'm not suggesting it, I'm just saying it always seems in sports like the Lance Armstrongs, the Barry Bonds, the Roger Clemens, something always Pacquiao, something pops up. Like, oh, well, he was using X, Y, and Z or whatever. So where do you rank this as far as starts? that you have ever seen as in watching baseball for all the years you've watched?
I think it's up there, maybe top 3 for the start, but we have to see how it finishes and what else happens. Because remember, years ago, when you were talking about the steroid era, Brady Anderson, remember, before the All-Star break, he had like 35 home runs. After the All-Star break, he dropped, I just think I always thought Judge was good, but I was like, he strikes out a lot and this and that. But he has changed his game.
Has he struck out a lot this year?
No, not a lot. And that's the thing. Like he's trying to cut that down, But I think he's having a year that it never happened ever in baseball before. So, we're looking at another MVP season for
I know. It's crazy.
And it just shows also too, Soto needed him.
Well, Soto's starting to come on a little bit.
I know Lowe sends that stuff, but
no, he's starting to come on a little bit. But I know for just the years I've been watching Juan Soto, I always I want to get his rookie card. And I always try to get it in the beginning of the year because he always starts off slow. I remember he was batting like 200 a couple of years ago. Yeah, like right at 200, like right by the Mendoza line, 212, 215. And I'm like, man, if this guy is going to be, it was him and Wander Franco. I would always, now Wander, obviously he's got his issues that put him out of baseball. But those two guys are nip and tuck as to who you would get. Obviously, Juan Soto's gone on to have a tremendous career, but he always started off slow and then heated up all the way through, which I thought was really important for him.
Yeah, if it's like June, let's just say end of June.
Okay, June. Yeah.
Beginning of July, and we're still seeing this,
then I'm worried.
Like you're worried.
But the Mets are doing well.
They are number one in the
baseball. You can't deny that.
No. But they have a harder road to the playoffs in the National League than the Yankees would in the American League.
How about Pete Alonso coming up?
Doing good.
And
the funny part is too, they weren't going to sign him.
That's what I'm saying. That was a good pickup for them.
Yeah,
to keep him on.
Yep, they had to.
So after I'm going to jump right into something else too here. So let's jump into Shannon Sharpe. Now, I want to talk to you about this because there's two sides to this here that I'm looking at. One is, how can somebody, how do I put this easier? All right. So he's a guy who they're looking at. And I always thought, just by watching his shows, he was a guy who was very attentive of his surroundings. Okay. Now there are some stuff coming out about how he acts on the set. There's some stuff leaking out. But how can you put yourself in a position? I never understood this. You're putting yourself in a position against people who do not make anywhere close to the amount of money you make. They're on OnlyFans. They're doing all this other nonsense. Why are you putting yourself in that position? But the flip side of that is, okay, I don't know how much I believe this crap. Because this girl's like, some of this stuff, I want to see both sides of this stuff. Because some of this stuff is like a setup.
Yeah.
So like, where do you draw the line as that kind of a guy?
So I think the charges are fake. I think the stuff he did with her was, consent, both of them. But I just think it's when you have that much money, you feel untouchable, and you can.
Yeah, but look at the last 10 years. Look at the last 10 years. How many people do you know have been in trouble, sexual harassment, or SA, and just like stuff like that? Those charges, anything that happens, and racism and stuff, it gets out of control.
It got worse. I'll tell you where it got worse. COVID. Once COVID hit, you're seeing a lot of this stuff come out.
Right, but you would think that it kind of is, like tampered down a little bit. Like you can get away with some stuff. Like there are some people that are untouchable. Dana White's untouchable. Because if you go back to his videos, he dropped a lot of homophobic slander.
And he
Okay.
slapped his wife.
And he slapped his wife. So there are things there. There are people who are just untouchable. It's almost as if you get too much money and too popular, you get on top. You were bringing you down. Dana White's been the only one that I've seen that's gotten away with it. So Donald Trump too. But I mean, like stuff like that. Like, where do you draw the line? Like, you have to be smarter.
Yeah,
and the drunk driving stuff.
And you see right away, Stephen A. Smith.
Yeah, that's the first thing I noticed.
The first thing he said was, I don't know Shannon outside. I just met him when he came to the show. When I got him for the show and everything. Then we built the relationship. But everything he said was about his working relationship with him. He didn't outside world. He didn't mention anything. He's a great worker, hard worker, on time, this and that. Dedicated worker. But outside of work, he didn't say anything.
The other thing that struck me too is anytime, and it's been going on for years, like with Opie and Anthony and Howard Stern when he got fired, they will suspend you first, let you take a leave of absence, and then they fire you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
He's not coming back.
I don't think he's coming back either. Obviously, the sponsors have taken their names off of his content, and that's true because the one thing behind Ocho Cinco is the DraftKings logo has his jersey on it now.
Yep.
That's true. That's and the thing in the corner is just his logo, the shades.
And another thing too, if you see with Shannon Sharp, he would always. I haven't seen a lot of his sex pills commercials around. I haven't seen a lot of those around now.
That probably isn't a good look.
No,
that probably isn't a good look. But
I would always see it on YouTube Shorts, but not anymore.
The other thing I would say too is like something you want to say about Stephen A. When he started saying, "I have no control if he's here anymore. I have no control," because they're going to want Stephen A. to jump on his side. They're going to want him to say, "Hey, this is my guy. If me and you had a show, okay, and you were out there doing whatever, I'd say, look, that's my brother. I'm sticking with him. He is my show. Whatever he does outside is his business. I don't care what he does." Even if it affected the show, they want Stephen A. Smith away from him because Stephen A. Smith, I believe, is going to have a political future. So I think he's pulling away for that reason. The second he started pulling away, I said, Stephen A. Smith has now drank the Kool-Aid. He's now a political analyst.
Yep.
That's what's going to happen there.
One key word he said when he was doing an interview with Big Boy, Stephen A. Smith, he goes, "We," as in like Disney, he goes, "We had to take a look back."
Okay. Yeah, well, then there you go. You can't tell me that Stephen A. Smith couldn't walk into that studio and be like, dude, we got to protect this guy.
Oh, yeah.
Of course he can.
He can.
I am positive he didn't do that.
No.
I'm positive. Just because of the way he talked, because he is very open.
When that thing happened with Jay-Z, that's bullshit.
Bullshit. That's what I mean. That's the first thing. And people went to bat for him.
Mm-hmm.
There's nobody going to bat for Shannon Sharp, and that's not good. That is not good.
I would have thought that maybe Ocho Cinco would have, but
nothing. Have you heard anything from him?
No.
Yeah, not
I think
good.
they all knew this was going on, and that's the thing.
But my point on that whole thing is, who cares what he does? There is no way you're telling me that it was not consensual. She's on OnlyFans, for crying out loud. This is a woman who does. Don't tell me about the moral bullshit. Yeah. This is what you do. So if you're doing it to make money and then you're coming after him for $50 million, get out of here. Get out of here. Don't do it. But there's going to be no repercussion if they find out. If they do, who knows? If there's no repercussion for her.
Yeah, there should be something.
There should be something for her.
And if the stuff comes out and it's legit, Shannon's going to sue. Shannon's definitely.
I'm sure he'll sue. I'm sure. But what are you going to get from her? Now you've lost your sponsorship, your reputation, and now they know kind of what you do between the sheets.
Yep.
That's a little weird. I mean, but then again, Shannon's put himself out there. The Instagram Live and stuff like that. But he is not married. He's not married.
And that's the thing.
He's not married. Who cares what you do? Of course, you don't want to SA. You don't want an assault on someone like that. Fine. I get that. But you're not calling up. If you feel you're assaulted, you're not calling up Shannon Sharp, telling when you're coming to town.
Yeah.
Come on.
send me money or whatever.
Send me money, pay for this,
Send
dude.
my Cash App to them. And
God, I
and
can't.
another
This
thing
drives
too,
me
and I know
nuts.
he's not going back to ESPN because when he did that speech and Instagram post, he said, "I'm going to take some time off from there." He's doing more work at Nightcap and the Uncle show, so it's like, come on.
I mean, he does have a strong media company. It is strong. He has a bunch of people on there, but so he doesn't need the money. It's just I would be so pissed. I'd be so pissed in this if that happened. So pissed.
Do you think it's about the $100 million contract?
Of course it is, because that took a crap quick. That stopped. Someone put the brakes to that. But it just goes to show us we're up against it. We're up against it. You got to be. You have got to have your P's and Q's.
Mm-hmm.
It's not worth it. It's not worth all this hard work that he's done, and he's done a lot of hard work. And then you're coming out with this. Get out of here with this nonsense. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. I don't like it. It's not. Hold on.
So, I mean, we could. I want to ask you a different question.
Go ahead.
On a different subject.
Go ahead.
Because I didn't talk to you about this.
Mm-hmm.
What's your opinion on Shador dropping to 144?
Okay.
Do you think it was collusion?
To a point, without saying it. I know I saw Boomer Esiason say that he was in an elevator one time with Dan. I think he was from the San Diego Chargers.
Okay.
Dan Henning, and he was in there. And he didn't know who he was. He was a rookie, and he said, "Man, the NFL's treating us like shit. We should get hotels, 4-star, whatever." When Dan Henning went back to the thing, he told the owner, said take his name off the board, and he called other owners. He was like, take their name off. So, do they do that? But you got to look at it both sides. I look at it as a businessman. I can teach you how to make a bagel. I can teach you how to make dough. I can teach you how to bake. I can teach you how to do all that stuff. That stuff, when you come to my job, my business has standard operating procedures. This is how you do this. This is how you do this. And no matter who you are, whether you're 8 years old or you're 38 years old, you can do that. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
I cannot teach you how to act and how to talk to my customers. I cannot teach you to show up on time. I can't do it. Okay? I would say to somebody, I cannot control that, but you can.
Yep.
And you can show me you can do that, which I'm okay with, but show me. But am I going to take a chance of $40 million? I'll give you minimum wage, but I'm not going to give you $40 million and hand the keys to my franchise over to you as a quarterback and then say, oh, well, my culture is going to be this. As sad as this is, and this is a sad picture. The NFL is run by white men. Okay. The culture that Deion Sanders brings to the picture of Colorado was different.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it was different. It worked. Can't say it didn't work. But would somebody in corporate America bring that culture in and have a chance of, let's be honest, some of these guys don't like that.
Yeah.
They just don't.
Because
they're going to take the chance to bring that in and have people saying, you know what? I'm canceling my $100,000 a year seats. They're not taking that chance.
No.
So I don't know if it was such a. Now, I hope he proves everybody wrong. I hope he does well.
Yep.
But then when you get picked by the Browns, 144, and you're dancing around like Keyshawn Johnson did the first time he scored a touchdown.
Yeah.
But then he got humbled. I don't think he's been humbled. We talk about Bo Nickel getting humbled. This guy needs to get humbled.
Yep.
That's just my opinion. And again, yes, it's wrong that the NFL is owned by mostly white people, and us as a minority don't have the equal shot as far as we have to do it with our talent. Like if we went in to go buy an NFL franchise, it'd be so impossible for us to do it.
Yeah,
I get that, but that's what we're dealing with. You got to read the room. Read the room.
Yep. Now, do you think, because I actually heard some of this too, some of the coaches were afraid to pick him because they know their job might be on the line, and who's in the background, Dion, trying to get his way in.
I don't buy that, and I'll tell you why. They don't
Okay.
have the choice. The owner decides. If you're worried about your head coaching job, okay, you're not going to make that decision anyway. If my manager, if I had a guy coming in here and I knew that there's some guy who ran 10 Einstein bagels and all stuff, and his kid was coming to work here, and this other guy revenue went from 100,000 to 100 million, the manager better be worried.
Yeah.
The manager they got now better be worried, not the owner. The owner, I don't care. If you're coming in, you're making me money, and you're better than what I have, you're out. The other guy's out and you're in. So that I think I don't buy.
Okay.
I think that's maybe the head coaches started
That's what
talking
I'm
to
talking
each
about.
other,
Yeah.
not the owners. I don't think the owners, I don't think the head coaches have that decision. Like maybe a Bill Belichick, maybe a Bill Parcells at the time.
Bill
Maybe
Belichick. Whew.
Oh, well, he's got his own issues, that guy. He's got to get away from that girl. Like a Parcells or a Andy Reid.
Andy Reid.
Andy Reid has a lot of pull. Okay. But he also has a bunch of championships behind his back. So don't tell me these guys are worried about it. If you're not good enough, you're going to be out. NFL is a cutthroat corporation. That's just what it is. If you're not good enough, you're not playing there.
Yep.
That's it. Sorry. Not important. I null and void.
You know who I'm going to predict this maybe in a year or so, you'll see him back in coaching. John Gruden.
I think so. And I'll tell you why. Remember how I told you?
Yeah.
I remember how I told you Lex Luger was going to be in the Hall of Fame? I said, you're starting to see him a lot.
Yeah.
Now you're starting to see John Gruden a lot. Time heals all wounds.
Yes, it does.
Racist, not racist. You and I know that a lot of these people talk like that behind the scenes.
Yep.
And it's mostly the white people.
Exactly. Yep.
So it's the way they talk. It's how they is. I don't look at it any different than what reality is. Reality is that you can't tell me that these politicians don't talk like that. They do. All these guys do. So they just keep it.
And it's not like just the whites.
They all do. They all do. I mean, it's not. It's just not. It's the cult. It's how we live and how this has gone in from years, and it's just moved us forward. That's it. Unfortunately, so Shador, I hope, can somehow change the person that he is. I doubt it. Personally, because I think the social media superstar that he is what he is, and that's it. You
know who? If you would have switched their personalities, like Shiloh, his other son, Shiloh, to Shador's personality, he would have got picked early because he's laid back. He doesn't really do that. He's joking around all the time. Then Shador would have got picked earlier.
It just goes to show you it's not just the skill level. It's what you're at that level. Everybody's really good. You have to be an exceptional superstar. Now, I will say this is a comment that came up. The Mannings did this. The difference, other than skin color, that can be an issue too. The difference here is how Arch and Eli acted. You don't come in and say, I'm going to change the culture. I'm going to do that. Don't do that.
Yep.
The reason why Arch Manning didn't want Eli with the Chargers, they were terrible. They were terrible. They were really bad. And he's like, I'm not having my kid get hit all the time.
It worked out for both teams, to be honest with you.
It did. No, it did. Phillip Rivers actually was a good player. So, but I get where Dion would be saying that. But at some point, you got to say, okay, these two teams I'm not playing for. And you don't say
Cleveland was probably one of them.
Oh, they're that bad. They are. No, I agree with you. But I'm saying there's a point where you say, okay, we're not going to play for, I don't know who's that bad. The Jaguars and maybe Cleveland.
The Bears.
Those are people we're not going to play for.
Panthers.
But we'll play for everybody else. We're good. You kicked yourself in the ass.
Why can't you just say, this was my dream come true, and I'll play for any team?
Exactly. Then you look good.
Yep.
You look good. Well, I'll tell you this. We were going an hour here, and we got to wrap this up because I got some stuff to do.
All right.
Jackson's going live on TikTok today. That is TikTok Hollywood Jacks. TikTok Hollywood Jacks 7.
I can see him doing his glasses.
Oh yeah, he's got it there. He's ready to go. He's got his whole thing. I have no idea how they stream it like that, but not the A and B and up and down buttons. Nope, not anymore.
Up, down, left, right.
Coach, Diz and Los this week, probably on Wednesday. You guys film every Tuesday. You drop it on Wednesday. A bunch of shorts come up during the week, so they can keep up with you guys. So go to Diz and Los, like and subscribe to their channel. It's Diz and his friend Carlos. They do a great podcast there. Jersey Jay-Z still got the wrestlers going on his channel. He has Ahmed Johnson this week. He just had a good one with Steve Lombardi last week. And the week prior to that, he had Boris Zukov on, but it did not go through. He's trying to get him back on. So after you do all that subscribing and liking there, like to the Zapata brand with George Zapata, I have my channel here. I'm going to be doing a lot more vlogs like outside of the stuff, doing more in the business world. But obviously when boxing comes up like this, we'll have a lot of people on.
Also, May 10th.
May 10th, there's a fight in amateur boxing here in Berwick. Sean McFadden going for the championship, the Masters Championship of Pennsylvania, heavyweight championship. Olivia Ford, 7-time national champion, will be fighting also. Main event, JJ Snyder. He'll be fighting on the show as well. That is right here in Berwick, Pennsylvania at the West Side Ballroom, right down on Route 11, right across from the Surplus Outlet. I will be there in attendance. Tickets are on sale at Rocky Boxing Gym here in Berwick. So, Diz, you got anything else?
No, we're good, man.
All right, man. We'll see you next week.
Peace.
See you, Coach.
Thanks for watching the Zapata Brand Podcast. Please subscribe to the podcast and listen where all podcasts are available.